the Arch Gaming Network is proud to bring you this board game review. Now here's your host, Sean Smith.
Hello, and thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to be taking a look at the game Flashpoint. Now, normally with these reviews, I try to do, the intro, setup, the walkthrough of the game, and then give you my final thoughts all in one video. However, for Flashpoint, I thought it might be best to break that up in an effort to try and keep the videos to, a nice consumable length. It's not that Flashpoint is overly complex, it really isn't, but there's enough nuance in the rules and setup that I thought it would be best to break those up. So this video is focusing on my review of the game, tell you about it and give you my thoughts on it, and then there will also be a video for the setup to a recruit level game, and then there'll be another video on a walkthrough with all the rules for that recruit level game as well. So I will put a link to those videos in the description, and if I'm smart enough, I will also put links somewhere on the screen here. So let's get to it. Let's tell you my review of Flashpoint. Now, Flashpoint is a cooperative game with a very tense theme. You are firefighters and you are trying to rescue these victims that are inside the building. And it features some variable powers in the different types of firefighters that you can play. It also has dice rolling. Now, the way that the game plays is that players are given action points, and through those action points you can do all sorts of things. You can move through the building, you can fight fires, you can drive vehicles, chop through walls, and some other things that you can do as well. The goal, of course, is to try to keep the fire as much at bay as you can while you're trying to rescue the victims that are inside the building. In the game, you're going to have fires popping up all over the place. There's going to be explosions, which really ratchet up the tension in the game, and the building's going to be taking damage as well from the different explosions that occur. You can also have these variable powers where maybe you will be a specialist at fighting fires, or the captain, or maybe a medic, or someone who's better at rescuing victims. There are a lot of different variable powers that you can play, and what's nice about this game is that you can swap out the player, the type of firefighter that you are in the middle of the game. Now, the ways that you can win this game, there's only one way, and that is you have to rescue 7 victims.
Help me!
Now, these victims that are in this building, you're not really you know where they are, but you're not going to know necessarily whether they are real or false alarms until you can get to them and then reveal who they are. So there's tension from that as well. You have to be able to rescue 7 before you lose 4 of the victims. If you do that, you'll lose. Or if the building takes too much damage, you'll also lose that way. So the way that a round would work is you have these cool little firefighter miniatures, and during your turn you're going to spend these action points. You're going to be going in, maybe fighting fires, maybe grabbing hazardous materials, using your special powers, trying to get to victims. Maybe you will drive an ambulance or the fire engine, around the home as well. Working all together cooperatively to try to make sure that this fire doesn't get out of control and be able to get to these victims before one of the losing conditions occurs. Now, once your particular turn is over, then you're going to be rolling dice, and this is going to advance the fire in the building. If you're lucky, maybe you're just adding smoke to an area of the home, but if you're unlucky, you may cause an explosion, or you might set off a hot spot, or some hazardous material might explode in the building as well. And these things can really start to get out of control. So work together hard, really pick out a good cooperative strategy, and you might be able to win Flashpoint. All right, so Flashpoint is an incredibly tense game, and the theme works very well. You have this building that can very rapidly, the situation can very rapidly change. Adding this new fire, flashovers that can happen, hot spots, explosions that can happen, and being able to have to go in and try to rescue victims, maybe not even knowing quite if they are real or just false alarms. You really do feel like you are a firefighter getting in there and trying desperately to handle this fire and to get to these victims. I find this game to be very similar to Pandemic in its intensity and in kind of in the gameplay as well. If you like Pandemic, I believe you would really like this game. The components in the game are well done. The firefighter miniatures are really nice. The artwork is great. And the different types of firefighters that you can play really give you a lot of great options in trying to battle the current situation. I really like the fact that you can swap out those abilities by reaching the fire truck and then using a couple of action points to, to swap that out to try and meet maybe a particular need that is happening at that moment. The different fire tokens, the hotspot tokens, all of those, they are cardboard, but they're thick and they should hold up well. Now, the game, in the testing and the playing that we've done, this game is tough, and even at the recruit level, it has such a randomness to it in the dice rolling. So because of that dice rolling, you could get very lucky. Maybe you roll in some victims are going to be closer to the doors, the exits to get out, or maybe those rolls for advancing fire are going to hit explosion after explosion. So in that, there is some randomness and luck that adds to the theme. It certainly adds to the intensity. When it's your turn to roll to advance that fire and you hit a spot that causes an explosion, it's like, no! Oh, I've done the worst thing. But if you roll, a victim and it's by a door or whatever, easy to get to, you're excited about that as well. So even on the recruit level, the game can be quite daunting. I haven't even played it on heroic or legendary. Those modes add more fire and more hotspots to it, and I think even some more of the hazardous materials. So I can't even imagine trying to win that game. I mean, the recruit level is pretty strong as it is. Now, the game plays 2 to 6 players. I think the sweet spot for it is 3 or 4 players. 2 players is fine as well. It's certainly winnable, but you might want to, if you're going to play 2 players, maybe take control of 2 different firefighters, have 4 firefighters in each player, play 2 of them. And the reason why I say that is it comes down to those variable powers, the different firefighters you can choose. Some of them are just so very important. For example, you have an imaging specialist, and for an action point, that specialist can scan the building and identify one of the victims. In the game, you have these victims, but they have question marks on one side, and on the other side, they're either going to be a victim or it's going to be blank. If it's blank, it's a false alarm, and it doesn't help you win the game. And there's something very frustrating about working your way through a building, through a fire, trying to get to a victim, and you turn it over and, no! It's a false alarm. With the imaging technician, they can use 1, 2, or 3 action points to identify the 3 victims that are in the building. That could be very helpful, so you know where to go to try and rescue people. The problem is that's, even though that's a great power to have, it's limited. Once you've identified all those 3 victims, until there are more in there, it's not very helpful. So it'd be helpful to swap it out like you can, and that's great. But when you're playing 2 players, having to constantly go back to the fire engine, swap it out for somebody else can become difficult. That's why I think maybe with additional players, the game becomes a little bit easier to play because you can mix up the different firefighters and their abilities in the game. There's also one thing that I really enjoy about Flashpoint, and that is the customability that you can have in the difficulty of the game. It has the 4 different levels. The family level, it has the recruit, heroic, and veteran, or veteran heroic. Anyway, there's 4 levels in the game, but you can kind of ratchet up the intensity or lower the intensity by simply maybe not adding as many hot spots, maybe not as many explosions, maybe instead of playing with 3 hazardous materials in the home, maybe you just play with 1 or 2. You have that ability to customize the difficulty of the game to your liking, and the game will still play really well. And I think that is a really excellent way to try and play this game. I know some of the first games that we played, we didn't want to play the easy, but we kind of wanted to ease our way into the recruit level. So instead of 3 hot spots, we just had 1, and maybe just 1 or 2 hazardous materials. Again, customize it the way that you want and slowly add in those components. For me, that is a really fun aspect as well. So Flashpoint, you really do have to work cooperatively because things can get out of hand so quickly. It is a very fun game. It is an intense game, and thematically, I find it to be very strong. I would like to give this game a 10. I think because of the randomness in the dice rolling, you know, and that luck that's involved in there, I'm going to give it a 9. Still a very solid game. If you like cooperative games, you like Pandemic, you like this type of theme, I think you'll have a great time playing Flashpoint. So if you like this review, please take a moment, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and check out our other great reviews. Also, don't forget, in the links below, there are links to the setup of the game and to a tutorial, a walkthrough with all the different rules for the recruit level game. Check those out as well. And once again, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for visiting the Arch Gaming Network. For more great content, check us out at archgamingnetwork.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook.